What's something that's considered a luxury now, but was normal decades ago? Story 1. New furniture made out of real wood. We have furniture from the 70s in my cottage. All of it is cheap veneered crap. It has been a long time since people used real wood for furniture, much more than 20 to 30 years. IKEA has been making furniture since the 40s. I remember my father buying new furniture for our whole house in the late 80s. Most of it was veneered crap too, except for the kitchen chairs and table. Maybe 50 years ago it was more common to have real wood furniture, but I would guess the 60s or 50s was the last time real wood was the primary furniture component. Presswood and veneer has been around for a very long time. Industrialization surely was the largest contributor. If you want solid wood legal furniture anymore, you have to have it commissioned by a local carpenter. It will be super expensive and take a while to get finished, but you will have it for multiple generations. I just had this discussion with my boss the other day about the longevity of furniture. It's only supposed to last you at max 5 years before you have to come back and spend more money to replace it. It is engineered to make you come back to the market, so furniture companies can keep profiting off of you. I've noticed this, especially about end tables. Why are they pressboard and about $100 each? It's a tiny little table, that's it. Having said that, I do like to put furniture together. If people would pay me to put together these cheap pieces, I'd make some extra change. Story 2. Owning the software that you purchased. Yep, thanks to intellectual property laws, less and less of what you buy these days is stuff you actually own. You're buying the privilege to use it as long as you follow the rules the seller/owner laid out. Sure, you might have owned the physical cassette/CD/DVD whatever, but you never actually legally owned the information on it. I mean, you never really did even then, but yeah, you could buy the right to use it in perpetuity. Obviously, everything went to subscription because that's fantastic for the people who rent it to you. Constant income, instead of big chunks of income every once in a while. And you can't stop paying because if you do, you'll lose the tool. A literal captive audience. This is especially galling with stuff like Adobe, where users legit have very limited options on where to go. This one really gets under my skin. Continuously buying the same thing that you're not going to stop needing. Story 3. Paying no more than 30% of your income in rent. Back in 2009, I had just graduated from college, was working in mortgage collections. Yep, right during the collapse. There was a government assistance program that people could apply for if you were paying more than 30% of your monthly income on your mortgage. That's right, a lot of people were paying less than 30% on their mortgages, and that was the number they determined was extreme enough to qualify for government assistance. According to Rent Cafe, average rent in the USA for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,702. So based on the 25% rule, you'd need to earn $6,808 a month, or $81,696 a year. According to an income calculator, $81,696 puts you in 56th percentile for household income, so more than half of American households wouldn't qualify for a one-bedroom apartment. I bought my house years ago, so I'm lucky in that regard. I don't know how I'd make it if I hadn't. Story 4. Not being expected to be reachable 24/7. I had one awful boss that reasoned that since he paid me the money to be able to have a personal cell phone, I should be reachable to him 24/7 on that cell phone. Don't miss that jerk at all. Parents seem to have an especially hard time dealing with this. I don't just mean parents with teenagers or younger. Anyone above the age of 50 seems to assume when they are phoning you and you ignore it, it is the same as if they were talking to you face to face and you were just walking away. They're that offended by the concept of not answering when they call. Honestly, it's entitled. I've tried to explain it to my own mother numerous times, but she can't wrap her head around someone not answering a phone the second she hears the ringer. I have an ex who got angry with me if I didn't answer the phone, even if my phone didn't even ring because I was out of range. Yes, an ex. For that and many other reasons. Having to respond to coworkers is also a pain. Can't you get away from those people? Story 5. Household products that didn't break within the first few years of use. My grandma had the same fridge from 1993 for a good while before deciding to switch to a newer, bigger one 2 years ago. Yes, it broke within those 2 years. My mom's wedding cookware is still going strong 25 years later, but whenever she needs new pans, they start flaking Teflon into the food within a few months. My crock pot was given to my parents as a wedding gift in 1976. The rub, I got the old one when she decided to upgrade. The new one now gets passed over for my late grandma's truly ancient Dutch oven oven, just a really big, really thick-walled blue-black pan with a tight lid that fills the entire oven with one of the racks out. Ancient being not even mom knows how old it is, and really big meaning large enough to feed a family of 10 easily with seconds. We bought a refrigerator in 1998 and in 2014 moved it to the basement and got a new one. It broke a year and a half ago and was going to cost $2,000 to fix it, so we just brought the 1998 fridge upstairs and it's still going strong. I liked it better anyway. My pots and pans were a new set Mama bought for me in 1982. I still use them and they're perfect. No warping or anything. This reminds me, I have some old Teflon pots I need to throw away because they're flaking. I've had some bad luck with washers and dryers myself. Story 6. Sure does seem like ticket prices went from $50 to $200 plus really fast. It's because scalpers use computer bots to buy out all the tickets online as soon as they become available. The original price of tickets is still around $30. It's just botters selling them at absurd prices. There is a simple reason for this development: streaming services. There is no more big income from selling records, and what artists get from streaming services does not even buy you a morning coffee. It's a joke. Artists used to play concerts to promote their records, to push CD sales. Today, they play concerts to have an income. That's why ticket prices went through the roof. I would love to go to more concerts, but it's too much. Smaller venues are reasonable, but the big shows are out of my price range. Story 7. Farmers markets. You used to be able to go down and get fruit and vegetables cheaper than the grocery store. Now it seems like they charge 3 times more than stores do. We have a local farmer on the outskirts of my town that sets a table of all his slightly imperfect produce with a sign that says take what you need, pay what you can. If that's nothing, that's okay. Pay the kindness forward in other ways. Help a neighbor by being a good neighbor. Best guy ever. We're a gourmet mushroom farm with a permanent booth at a large farmer's market in Iowa. This is always a huge point we discuss all the time. They make it a huge deal to only allow local farmers, microgreens, bakers, meat, etc. The more food products, the better. Yeah, we do have a lot of knick-knacky stuff too, but the board is pretty particular about making sure it's unique if they approve the vendor at all. Also, to the point made above you, I don't know how many times I get people telling me I should raise my prices on our mushrooms. Price at the stand is usually cheaper than the grocery store. I get it, we could, but then I'd hate myself for doing it. So no, I'm happy making a nice margin already. You drive more customers away by price gouging, and my goal is to get more people trying new types of gourmet mushrooms, like lion's mane, shiitake, chestnut, etc., and they won't if you price it too high. You just screw yourself as a grower that way. When I go to other markets and see other growers charging 3 times as much, I'm just floored that people are buying it all. Farmers markets have a different kind of vibe to them, like it takes you back a few decades. I always enjoy it, even if I don't buy anything. The people are always friendly. Story 8. Privacy used to be implicit. It was just there. You didn't have to think about it. Now it's explicit. You have to seek it out and take steps to ensure it remains in force. People with cameras are not what I'm worried about. It's corporations recording our every location, social media behavior, and Google search history, then putting that info for sale to whoever wants to buy it. It's one thing for advertising. It's another thing when governments buy this information and cause you problems because you looked at or did something they don't like. I live in a townhouse complex with my girlfriend, and we have these neighbors who live at their windows and watch everything and everyone that comes by. Every time I come home from work, they're there watching. If I'm in the kitchen, they're there watching. We went and bought a freezer, and they watched the entire time we were unloading it. Like, I don't expect complete and total privacy when you live in close proximity to others, but I like to be able to have my windows open for natural light without worrying if some creep thinks my window being open is an invitation to treat it like free TV. This for real. I don't want to be in your TikTok. I don't want to be in your selfies. I definitely don't want to listen to your conversation on speakerphone. You are the main character of your life, not mine, and everyone else is around you. Go away. Agreed. I'm aware of other people's phones being out and recording. Makes me nervous. I don't want to end up on some Inside Edition teaser because somebody 5 feet beside me does something ludicrous. Story 9. Good quality fabric and clothing. I have clothes from the 90s and 80s from my mother that still hold up today. These days, I'm lucky if my shirt isn't saggy and misshapen within a year. Right, I spent like $70 on new Vans less than a year ago, and they're already falling apart. I got jeans that seemed quality when I bought them, but the belt loops broke and the seams are coming undone. I ordered a new shirt online recently that feels like it's the thinnest material they could find. I have jeans from the 90s that are completely fine that I've worn 100 times longer than any other of my jeans. This is indeed a luxury. It's not really cheaper when I factor in costs of the materials, much less my time, but it fits. It has every characteristic I want, and it's styled how I like. I can pick fibers that mean I'm not dying in the summer in the southern US. It's still hot, but I don't feel a need to flee from the outside. It's incredibly difficult to get anything done while working though. I sew best when I have a few hours in a block to work. Those blocks are the ultimate luxury item. What really burns my biscuits is that first dress, made only to the pattern instructions and not well constructed, has still held up better than any other fast fashion I've ever owned. It's fraying inside, I've needed to repair a couple places from bad sewing, but it still looks good, and people compliment it sometimes. 3 years later. I literally have 0 fast fashion clothes left from 3 years ago. I wore actual holes in them within a year, or developed stains that I couldn't get out, despite a good knowledge of how to do laundry. Too much oil on polyester just ruins it. It would be so cool to make your own clothes. I know it would cost more, but to have it fit well and be able to choose the fabric and colors would be worth it for at least a couple items. Story 10. Being able to afford having only one person working in a relationship. Yeah, my dad as a college dropout restaurant manager made 6 figures, had 2 houses and 2 new cars in the 1980s. Mom just raised us kids. 35 years later, my wife and I have 2 bachelors and a master's between us, 3 jobs, and can barely afford a house that's 50% the size of one of my parents' houses from the 80s. We make less combined than our dads did alone with no degrees. Something that's changed as well. Kids getting home from school and taking care of themselves for a while when both parents work. Latchkey kids today would be considered child neglect. Someone would call social services on you, but back in the 80s it was a common thing. Both parents worked until 5 p.m., but school was done at 3 p.m. In 3rd grade, I would bike home from school, let myself in with my latchkey, and make a snack and watch TV until my parents came home. I was a latchkey kid, but I had older siblings, so it was more of a babysitting situation. I think the necessity of a double-income family has been around more than 20 to 30 years, too. I would say that started for many families around the 70s or 80s. Story 11. BSing your homies on the playground. Had this revelation last week when talking to my nephew. His friend told some blatant lie, I guess, 9-year-old, and everyone pulled out their brand new iPhones to Google his lies. Remember when someone would just say something and you just believed them? Even if you didn't, you were in for an hour-long argument on how it wasn't possible for Marilyn Manson to remove his rib. It is a luxury because it takes either credit or popularity to just be believed these days. Hey, I doubted half my professors just because they were old. In college, my buddy and I used to tell girls that we were the number 3 hot air balloon racing team in the world, just passing through on our way to the US championships. There's no way any of them had any previous knowledge of hot air balloons. Neither did we. So we had so many ridiculous conversations, and it was a ton of fun. Sometimes they believed us, sometimes they just played along. It would never happen these days. Rewatched Reservoir Dogs recently, and there's a whole scene where they're in the car arguing about an actor's name. I remember doing that all the time. Now it's, who's the actor in that movie? And everyone immediately knows. Convo over. In a group of people, I'm the one to look stuff up on my phone. I have to know what the right answer is. It feels incomplete to me if I don't know. I used to call my dad all the time if I didn't know an answer to something he would know, like a sports figure or an actor. Knowing the answer doesn't end a conversation, though it can just take it in another direction. Story 12. Family vacations. I remember going on road trips regularly and even flying once or twice as a kid. Now that I have kids, there's no way I can afford a week-long trip to the Badlands, Grand Canyon, Disney, Universal Studios, etc. Best I can do is a day trip to the Dells maybe once a year. I'm about to take a small road trip with my kids, and yeah, definitely too expensive to do anything much that isn't free or low cost. We only have 2 full days to have our fun because we can't afford to have a hotel the entire week, even though we are pretty much only spending money on food and gas for the activities planned. Luckily, my kids are too young to care a whole lot, but it's frustrating to my husband and I. We really wanted a vacation, and this is all we can do. Disneyland or anything of that nature is not going to happen anytime soon, if at all. Yes, camping is an option, if you don't have a husband that can't stand it, but it's definitely a great option if you have the equipment. There are definitely still opportunities to travel. One thing I didn't realize until I was older was how thrifty my parents were on on vacation. We drove everywhere, ate cereal for breakfast and sandwiches for lunch at the hotel, all fit into one room, and found as many free things to do as we could. Lots of beach vacations. True, we actually just went to Vegas for 4 days, stayed at the Luxor, did a day trip to the Grand Canyon, did some other fun museums and experiences. All in was about $1,100, including flights for my kid and I. Last time we went to a hotel in the Dells for 3 days and only did water park and cheap side entertainment, beating reptiles/haunted house, the trip cost all in was about $700, and that's splitting Mount Olympus condo with another family and doing stay and play. But travel in general is expensive. We're going to Minneapolis for a Twins game this summer, and our weekend trip with just booking the hotel and getting game tickets is already up to $1,000. We decided to drive from Kenosha because flying would have been outrageous. It was also supposed to be a week-long trip with 3 additional days in the headwaters, but that would have been another huge expense. I'm lucky I have the income for these things in this economy, especially as a single mom, but there's no way we can afford to see all 50 states or major landmarks by the time my kid is 18. I don't have the time to just pack up and drive cross-country, and flying anywhere is kind of a big deal these days. I hope my kid realizes that even though I can't do everything, they're getting way more than a lot of other kids get, and so much more than I ever had. Long weekend trips seem to be the way to go for us. It's less expensive and can be done more frequently. We used to go camping when I was a kid. We had a station wagon and everything. I remember more about the trip and stopping to eat the bologna sandwiches we had packed than I do our destinations, which were usually fishing trips. Story 13. Boredom. There's always something to take your attention nowadays. There's literal lifetimes of entertainment on a single streaming service. Phones, there's a ton of free and cheap games that can just eat hours of your time. Social media, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. 20 to 30 years ago, if there was nothing you wanted to watch on TV, you either sat through it or found something else to do. Games had to be bought in stores, so it was more of a process buying them. Once you had them, you committed to it or bought a new game. Sometimes there was just legitimately nothing to do. You had to get creative with your downtime, make your own fun. I've read that boredom is actually really important for creativity and invention. When there's nothing else to do, you're more likely to ponder things and come up with new ideas. If I recall correctly, boredom is also important for motivation and our dopamine reward system. Having to search a random length of time and sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, to find something fun to do motivates people to keep striving for longer in other areas of life too. Instant gratification is really bad for this. I actually get overwhelmed with how much there is to experience nowadays. There's so many movies to watch, games to play, books to read. You're right when you say there's a lifetime of entertainment available at our fingertips. It makes it so much harder to choose what to do with your time as well, because that means saying no to a million other things at that moment. And you don't appreciate what you're doing as deeply because maybe you would have enjoyed something else more. From Timeline, today everybody expects to be entertained, and they expect to be entertained all the time. Business meetings must be snappy, with bullet lists and animated graphics so executives aren't bored. Malls and stores must be engaging so they amuse as well as sell us. Politicians must have pleasing video personalities and tell us only what we want to hear. Schools must be careful not to bore young minds that expect the speed and complexity of television. Sooner or later, the artifice of entertainment, constant ceaseless entertainment, will drive people to seek authenticity. We are in the age of constant ceaseless entertainment now, and in my humble opinion, we're burning out. Story 14. Leaving your family behind to start your life at 18 or even younger. Now, folks live with their parents until they're 45, saving up for a 100 square foot closet that costs $2,000 a month in what barely passes as not a slum. This was only ever an American thing, and you could make the argument that it should not have been normalized in the first place. Pushing kids out the door at 18 only served to get bodies assimilated into the workforce as fast as possible. Encouraging young people to take things slow so they can fully mature and plan their life is a far more sensible approach. But of course, now things have swung too far in the opposite direction, and independence is straight up unaffordable for most. I was extremely lucky to inherit my grandmother's house because my own mother treated her so poorly that she changed the will to my name. I also have 2 kids, and I'm planning for them to live with me forever. Mentally, I'm okay with that. It would actually be nice in a lot of ways, and then if they're ever able to move out on their own, it's a bonus for everyone. A much different mindset mindset than when I was younger and forced out of the house, struggled hard for 20 years prior to the inheritance. We may joke about kicking your kid out at 18, but it's not going to happen. There's no way to survive with the way things are set up now. Story 15. Ads only on TV or the newspaper or radio. Now ads are everywhere. YouTube, 1-minute video, 2 15-second ads. Unskippable. Streaming service that you pay for, watch promos for shows we want you to watch before you watch the show you want to watch. Music service, pay premium for no ads. Random website, ads plus tracking cookies for ads. Social media, ad every 3 to 4 posts, plus collecting data to show you more ads plus targeted ads. Amazon. Here are some sponsored products you might like. I'm so tired of everything revolving around ads and collecting data to show you ads that are catered to you. It's like a hell loop. I was watching a video for infant CPR and 2 unskippable 15-second ads came up before the video. No babies were hurt. I am CPR certified and SBS also, and was watching the video to make sure I still remembered it correctly. I sat there in awe. Like, are you kidding me? Most people looking at those videos are in dire crisis. And not just ads on devices. There are ads on the floor of the supermarket, on the mirror in public bathrooms. Billboards are electronic now, so you see several ads, not just one, etc., etc. I kid you not, the last time I ordered Chinese takeout, there was an ad for a casino on the back of the fortune in the fortune cookie. Don't forget ads while you're pumping your gas. Yep, they still have that little screen there to capture your attention, and possibly your dollars. Story 16. Right now, I'm struggling just to own a dog. Decent dog food is insanely expensive right now. Dog parks are not for every dog, but they're the only space to let your dog play if you don't have a yard or can't walk due to the pavement being too hot, providing the park has shaded areas and water access, which is hit or miss. Vets keep raising their prices to keep up with inflation, which is making it so much harder to keep up with basic care. Same with licensing. Quality dog toys are at least $20 and often don't last as long as I would like, except Monster K9 and King Chew. Very well worth it for my heavy chewer. Grooming is costly. Flea and tick prevention is costly. Treats are costly. Everything about owning a dog is so much more than it used to be. Even though canine care wasn't as quality as it is now, heck, my first dog didn't cost this much to care for, and he was a frequent flyer at the vet for his health issues. Oh my god, yes, my parents' dogs growing up lived off Old Roy, Walmart brand food. Now that I know better, my dogs are on Purina Pro, Plan 1 for large breed puppies. The other for senior dogs. My bank account hurts every time they run out, but it's what is recommended for them that isn't vet-branded food, along with the arthritis supplements and stuff for my old dog. It's killer out here for people with pets that aren't eating plain chicken and rice, and even then the cost of regular food prices makes feeding real food crazy too. I feel so much for all the dogs that get abandoned because their owners just can't afford them anymore and all the shelters are full. When my husband and I got a cat early on in our marriage, she ate better than we did sometimes. We can't afford a dog at this point. Fence, food, vet care, it all adds up really quickly. Cats are expensive enough, and they don't need quite as much hands-on supervision, at least in theory. The health plan we have for them isn't too costly, but that just covers the standard checkups and vaccines. Just found out that one of ours has thyroid problems, so the vet is figuring out the dosage and she needs monthly blood work. But I miss dogs. Dogs are awesome. It sounds like you're a really responsible dog owner. Good for you. Animal shelters are hurting right now. There are so many animals that are strays and colonies of cats that are not spayed or neutered, and the people taking care of these poor babies are getting burned out and staying burned out. Story 17. I'd also say that medical practitioners' culture in the US overall has deteriorated incredibly fast. It feels like they are burdened by their patients now. Even well before COVID, the attitude of "are you sure you're not faking it" has ballooned beyond belief. My kid's pediatrician wasn't taking us seriously when we were expressing concerns about a stomach-related issue our kid is clearly having. On 3 different appointments, she shuffled us out the door, but this last one I made sure to time it with when I suspected he would have his issues, and hit the mark perfectly. Issue bubbled up right as they were weighing him, and wouldn't you know it, I now have a referral to the very same people I originally requested a referral to. It's like if you're not actively bleeding out on the floor, they try to get you out of the room as fast as humanly possible. I do think one big contributor to this issue, which is very real, is that a lot of insurance plans won't cover medication until they see multiple medical notes documenting that more conservative approaches have been tried. So even if the doctor does take the patient seriously about their condition, the patient would have to pay out of pocket for meds or wait for all these insane prior authorization calls to resolve, because the insurance company that the patient has paid upfront is refusing to cover actual treatment. Not always true, but more often than it should be, given wait times to be seen, like you say. There are so many factors involved with the healthcare system in the US, and a lot of it is not good. Having said that, I found the doctors I need and who listen to me, so I'm grateful for that. There are some circumstances that can limit your choice of doctors, but in general, you could search out a doctor that would better suit your needs. Story 18. Getting prescribed opioids when you need them for pain. War on drugs zealotry has created a landscape where even terminally ill patients on hospice are routinely denied the mercy of pain management because of addiction risk. Acute pain patients are being told to take OTCs for severe injuries and major surgeries, and chronic pain patients are being tortured to death. Those precious few doctors with enough compassion to provide quality pain care are persecuted by drug cops at the DEA who know nothing about practice in medicine whatsoever. It's all sickening and depressing. Every year I think it couldn't get worse, and every year I'm proven wildly wrong, and there is zero upside. The addicts who can't get scripts just switch to fentanyl and are dying in record numbers. Or the other side of hospice, as with my mother-in-law dying of cancer a few years ago, once we had in-home hospice care for her, we got so many drugs, mostly fentanyl, oxy, and some hardcore sleeping pills. She was on so many drugs for the severe pain. When she passed, we had a literal garbage bag filled with all the drugs they'd given us for her, and no one would take them. It took weeks of checking pharmacies, fire departments, police stations, hospitals. I can't honestly remember where my father-in-law was able to finally drop off all those meds. I think he found a fire station outside of this city that would take them, but I can't remember. I've never stopped thinking about the value of those hospice drugs on the street. If he was poor or struggling to pay all those bills, he's well off, so it wasn't a problem. That garbage bag of drugs could have made hundreds of thousands on the street, and the inability to get rid of them, that one still has me dumbstruck. The claim this person made that a terminal patient on hospice is denied opioids is honestly just an over-exaggeration. No terminal hospice patients who are in pain are being denied opioids. And furthermore, things like a sore throat or a broken arm should not be given opioids. I know from personal experience that having a broken arm hurts, but it doesn't hurt badly enough to justify prescribing opioids. Now, a broken hip, femur, or pelvis, yeah, that might be enough to warrant an opioid prescription. But frankly, some people kind of need to toughen up a bit. I understand that we went from overprescribing opioids to now underprescribing them in some situations, and I genuinely feel for the chronic pain patient who now has debilitating pain every day, but there are other effective ways to better manage chronic pain that need to actually be tried first. I can't help but get just a bit annoyed by the people with an injury or acute condition that causes them mild to moderate pain who dial up the melodramatic self-loathing and make themselves out to be the poor victims of malpractice because their doctor doesn't want to give them oxycodone for their dislocated shoulder or torn labrum. I realize everyone is different, and some people are more sensitive to pain than others, but some of the people complaining honestly need to suck it up. Cause honestly, if you're that distraught from mild to moderate pain, then you need to realize that the doctor is doing you a favor, because if they gave you opioids and you ended up hooked on them, you'd be begging to trade the pain of dependency and withdrawal in exchange for getting that mild to moderate pain back. Trust me, if you're wimp enough to need opioids for a broken arm, then you don't want to feel the pain of opioid withdrawal. I have seen grown men cry, wailing in agony because of opioid withdrawal. That stuff cannot be taken lightly. I've seen both sides of this coin. My dad was prescribed opioids after a surgery, when he had never had something stronger than over-the-counter painkillers. It was too much for him. On the other hand, my friend has chronic pain and has trouble getting medication because it looks like she's drug-seeking, when the truth is, she's relief-seeking. She needs to not be in pain some part of the day to function. I have never once heard of a hospice patient being denied pain meds. Hospice is palliative care, keeping the patient comfortable. That's all they can do. Story 19. Being a stay-at-home mom. I'm all for women having the option to work a career and be a mom, but I've met so many who hate having to drop off their babies or small children with grandma or at a daycare because it takes two incomes to survive because wages haven't kept up work productivity for the last 50 years. Being able to not be financially scared of medical issues for the whole family. Years from now, some archaeologists are going to dig up some of those alert bracelets that basically say, "Don't call me an ambulance, I can't afford it," and ask their colleagues what kind of hellscape hellscape we were living in. The most ironic and trope-loving of them will then force everyone to watch Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, that's the whale one for anyone who doesn't know, and pause the movie to point dramatically at the screen at 3 points, Kirk saying nobody pays any attention to you unless you swear every other word, and McCoy's comments in the hospital sounds like the GD Spanish Inquisition to me. And we're dealing with medievalism here. This kind of wraps up all the answers to this question, and they all revolve around money. Money is a luxury we used to have, but not so much anymore. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story that you would like to share, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.